CS2 is finally out, and there's a lot of market impacts we need to talk about. The first of which is these cases. Now, the rare cases are up quite significantly, but specifically those cheaper rare cases are up potentially 10 to 20% in just the past 24 hours, which is absolutely crazy, and we can see exactly why when we look at the unboxing numbers right here. Unboxing numbers are up over 100% in the past 24 hours. If you didn't know, previously we were sitting at maybe 800,000 to a million per day. Now we're at 2.2 million, and it's probably going to increase a bit further from this point.
Swap is today's sponsor, and they're also sponsoring you with a free bonus for signing up with the first link in the description. They're the premier place for CSGO and Rust skins, with a massive trading site and a top-of-the-line marketplace, offering you the most competitive rates out there and a massive 40% bonus when you're using that link in the description. Combine that with their top-of-the-line selling feature with many payout options, and their trading feature legitimately taking you just about a minute, and there's no reason not to sign up with that first link in the description.
Now, this has probably been one of the most predictable hypes we could have ever imagined. If we want to look at the cases that went up in price, it's the exact ones we were talking about. We've got our Spectrum cases, we've got the Chroma cases, we've got the Gamma cases, and we've got the Revolver case for these little bit more expensive cases. And when we look at the ones that are on the cheaper rare side, we've got the Prisma 1, the Prisma 2, and the Danger Zone, which are the top three for me. And this is quite obvious. This is exactly what we've been saying all along. That's because we know these cases specifically have such a high amount of demand, and they keep sustainable demand. And that's one thing I want to point out, is if we want to look at the CS20 is a case that gets really swept up in the hype, and obviously it's up significantly right now. I just want to make you aware that this is one of the most hype-based cases we see, and when we're talking about rare, cheaper cases, I think you've got a lot of great alternatives other than the CS20 case. However, we have started to see a very interesting trend develop among these rare cases specifically, and that's the fact that people are opting for significantly cheaper cases over those more expensive cases. Now, that may seem quite obvious, but when we look at the Breakout case, this is one of the most iconic cases inside of CSGO, and the fact is, it has not moved a single cent from before the update. This is very important because we can see that people are starting to get priced out from cases. No one wants to spend $10 total to go ahead and open up a Breakout case when they could get potentially 3 or 4 different cases to open up that they actually enjoy. This is very important because when it comes to investing, we need to make sure we're investing into items that have demand right now, and therefore, in my opinion, if we're looking at the Breakout and some of these more expensive cases, it may be time to take them off your list. Now, this is obviously a very short-term analysis here, but it also speaks to us about the general population trends for CSGO. A lot of the people that are opening up CSGO cases right now are probably not super hardcore fans. They're people that are coming into the game or people that are returning to the game, and therefore those trends are still very important to us, and the fact that they're all going for cheaper cases is, one, exactly what we believed in, and that's why we invested into those cheaper rare cases, but two, something that's going to be very important to dictate the future of our investments, because there's no reason to invest in the Breakout case if we're going to see a 10% year-long return, because now people are starting to go for those super cheaper cases. Now, the only actual brand new content we saw is in the form of this right here. This is the weekly care package. You get a choice of 4 different items and you choose 2 of them. Now, it's actually important that you understand how this works, because even though you're choosing 2 of these items, you're actually not guaranteed a case, which is the biggest misconception I've seen. Is a lot of people think that you're going to have one choice of a case here. You're not, and therefore we could potentially see some of these active duty cases increase slightly, along with the fact that they're being unboxed significantly more in the short term right now. As we can see from our daily unboxing chart, a lot of active duty cases are currently being unboxed because they're the newest ones and people like them and they want new content. Now, the other factor about this is you're actually not guaranteed to see 2 graffitis as well. You could see 2 different skins, and therefore that's probably going to increase the supply of these active 8 collections out there. And to go along with that, I don't think you're necessarily guaranteed a skin, but I think the odds you don't see a skin is extremely unlikely, considering you can see 2 of them, which is going to increase the supply as well, because if you remember in the past, you had about a 50-50 chance of getting a skin versus a graffiti. Therefore, there's probably going to be a lot more skins in supply when we're talking about these 8 active collections, which means if you are a holder of filler skins, they might see a little bit of a decrease in the upcoming weeks if you don't sell off right now. To go along with that, excluding the case market, it's very possible we could see a slight decrease of the skin market and the general market going down over the next upcoming weeks, just because we had so much hype and so much just real fuel heading into this update, and the fact that we really didn't see anything of substance is leading a lot of people to be disappointed in selling off their skins because they thought they were going to make a quick flip profit off of this. Now, when we're talking long term, as long as you picked up a sustainable item that you know is going to be increasing over the significant periods of a year or 2, I don't think you have really anything to worry about. However, if you were picking up something for a quick flip, it's probably not going to turn out that way, especially in the short term, and I think you need to be aware of that so you don't look at it and see that it's down 15% and wonder what exactly happened. Now, before we get to pairs, I do want to talk about what you should potentially be buying right now if if you want to sell off those items. And I think rare cases are definitely the way to go. If we want to look at the current trajectory of everything, rare cases are on such a strong future path. Now with that being said, I still think you should definitely be looking for the rare case that speaks the most to you. You don't necessarily need to invest into the Spectrums or the Gammas or the Revolver or whichever one is just on the uptrend right now. Look at the ones that you think are going to potentially pop off a little bit more in the future, and that could be a great area for you to dive a little bit deeper into. But the fact that we see this releasing now and we've gone so long without a brand new piece of content or a brand new case coming out, I think it's highly likely in the upcoming weeks we could very well see a brand new case that would bring a lot of interest back into the game, because the interest we have right now is not going to be sustainable for very long. There's no actual real new mechanics other than the fact that you can unbox things in CS2, which is going to become a very dry substance really quickly. Now talking about the fact that Paris is still here, there's a good and a bad. The bad is obviously that the holo prices are going to continue decreasing. We can look at all of them right here, and even though a lot of them haven't seen some pretty major drops just yet, the truth is it's definitely not going to be any increases in price over the next weeks, most likely. And that's definitely not a good thing if you're invested into them, but it's also not a good thing for capsule investors, because that means the ROI is going to decrease. And when the ROI decreases, when we see them finally get removed, unless we see a huge spike up in the price of holos, the ROI is just going to be much lower. We saw 100% ROI for a long time, and now it's like in the 80s, which is a huge decrease considering that pretty much all came from the holo prices. Now the actual good about this is the fact that the Paris sale is still here leads me to believe that there's probably going to be an update relatively soon. This is the longest sale ever, and we keep on saying that, but at the same time it does need to get removed. Obviously Copenhagen is still about 6 months away, and they're not going to keep it there that long. I think it's probably going to get removed with the next update, which could potentially be a case, potentially be an operation. Now speaking of which, I'm actually changing my opinion. I think it's very likely we get a case next, just because we saw the release of CS2 here and we didn't see any new content in the slightest, and therefore I think Valve is trying to perfect this before they move on to brand new things. A case is not something that takes a huge intensive amount of energy to go ahead and release. Relatively speaking, you just got to find the skins, program the case by taking the old code, and boom, you got yourself a brand new case. We could see a brand new rare special item, but even then, that's not that hard relatively speaking. And therefore, when we look at that and compare it to the amount of work that goes into an operation, I think it's very likely we could see a case next, especially when we look at the trends, the fact that we haven't seen a brand new case in the longest time in CS history, and we're going to see a huge amount of unboxing people come into the scene relatively soon, and I think it's a great opportunity for Valve to go ahead and release at least something to keep people interested in the short term here. Now in my honest opinion, I'm just a little bit disappointed by this update. Obviously CS2 came out and that's great and all, but I think everyone's on the same page that we really should have been seeing some brand new content come along with this. This interest is going to die out super quickly unless Valve steps in and does something absolutely major, and I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen. But that's all I got. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.